the guys that are on time, the guys that are, don't have things on their head that are kind of like swaying them. I feel like these guys are somewhat in harmony. But when you're not, that's when you can't make those agreements.
Yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing. You've described like the way that you go about things, which reminds me just a ton about how I went about things. We seem to have come from an upbringing which, well, let's just say, like I had my own definition of nice and what that was about. Um, and I know that you talk about that. You deal with that too. I can see that. I can see it because I did that. And thought that I'm the nicest guy around. So I thought. But that niceness is one of those cloudy things, one of those cloudy filters that prevented me from seeing what's out there, right? Because if every approach is like, all right, how do I get through this situation and be Mr. Nice Guy? Well, hold on a second. That's like putting a lens on that already clouds your visibility to see what's out there. Let's take this, right? Like I used to sit on these things with John a lot and watch how he went about things, and sometimes probably a lot of people on this call would agree, that I cringe at times. It would be offensive to my Mr. Nice Guy, and it took me a while to really kind of uncover that or beat that down, or let's talk about it in the terms we're using, reprogram that, rewrite that so that I had more clarity on what I'm doing. But I point out that it's not like you give up nice. It's nothing about that. Like what you do is we're talking about dominion over, control over, who's in charge here. Right? Remember, the structure of thought is Ken Kaplan, the soul, expressing through the body the programs. And so it raises an issue of, as Terry puts, as this thing says now, all programming under one hat, one unified operator. No, people are not unified, anything but. I know, and I know how I know that lots of you on this call are not. Most of you are not. No big deal. I get that. This is this is what B1 is about. It's in one sense, it's a easy to understand concept. All right, I got to be one. I have to. My computer is one. It's got one operating system and that controls these programs and controls the apps, and but our thinking often is not one. And so in one sense, it can be thought of like that, and it takes on a whole breadth and depth of being one with whole everything that you encounter.
Ken, some people think that B1 means that they're going to be honest with themselves.
Why do they think that, or is that not why you're even pointing it out?
If you ask them about anything that happened in their childhood, they will go verify it, right?
Okay, and how do they go verify it?
They go ask mom.
Yeah, I've done that.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not interested in what mom's memory is.
Yeah,
I'm interested in their memory, and the reason why I'm interested in it is because their memory is going to be absolutely different than mom's memory.
Right.
I recently asked my mom about my memory. Remember I was telling you about my mom telling me, don't act this way. You're never going to have friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
she doesn't even remember that. Like for her, it never even made her memory bank.
No, because for her, it was just another day at the office talking to a dumb kid.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. For
Yeah.
you, it was significant, so much so that you remembered it.
See, this is the thing that bothers me. B1 doesn't mean that you remember everything the same and you stay the same all the time. B1 means that there is a single entity that's in charge of the programming.
Oh, I see what you're saying now, that people go to verify, and as if the verification is like, I got my proofs, I'm one now.
But they also think that programming and memory are two different things.
We ought to just hang on that for a second here. Do people? I mean, yeah. I mean, that's a relatively new thought for me too. Does anyone think that programming and memory are different things? Anybody?
They're
What do you
like,
think? They're out there. I know Bree's out and Lenore's out there and Pam. Ralph's on.
Think about it. Really, they do.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, hi. One thing that I kind of had to wrestle with is I went through some molestation stuff when I was a kid. And one thing that I kind of questioned for a while was, did it really happen? And I think that, like,
yo, kid, that's not what we're talking about. I know that that's true for you, but that's not what we're talking about. What actually happens is, is that you remember that one of the reasons why that you've been in such a tizzy for so long is because you kept remembering that exactly the same way, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. The reality is that if you remember it differently, if you just painted a different color, if you just painted, it doesn't make any difference if it really happened that way or not. It's how you remember it, because how you remember it is how the program applies or runs in your life, kid. You're perfectly fine. You're a wonderful person. But because you keep going back and remembering that one event or that one series of events as this deep, dark, ugly, awful, then that means that you are that deep, dark, ugly, awful. And kiddo, you're not. You can remember that differently. You didn't have nothing to do with how what any deep, deep, dark or awful is there. You get to remember that whole thing any way that you frickin' want to. You get to remember it so that it works for you if you wanna. That's what a rewrite is about, is you going back and remembering how you applied it. And you say, no, I'm not gonna do it that way, I'm gonna do it different.
Mm-hmm.
That's just a different memory.
Yeah.
So if you're gonna be really honest and you're gonna remember it the same all the time, well, in the vernacular, this is a French vernacular thing, you're fucked.
I checked, and it's that way, and that's the way it is. Well, first thing is you're in control of your memories. You are. You can change them.
You know, Ken, I think anyone that's going to go do that misunderstands what memory's for, fundamentally, right?
Thank you. Yeah.
Because they're going back to say, well, did I remember that correctly? And to John's point, it's irrelevant what somebody else remembers about an event when you're talking about your own programming.
Right.
It's not, you're not even in the ballpark. You're not even playing the same sport if you think that's something you have to look into.
Yeah, it doesn't matter what somebody else remembers.
It's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
And it misses the point that you can change the hue for yourself.
Yeah. But what really happened? I have to find out who the fuck cares what really happens? What's the memory for you, and how does it work you? What effect or impact does it have on how you behave in life? Yeah, that's a good point.
Could I say something?
I don't know. Can you? You big enough?
Yeah, I am big enough.
That's good then.
So, like, I'm not sure if this is appropriate, but I had the same memory because I had probably something similar happen, a molestation.
Mm.
And when I finally looked at it, I just said, the way I grew from it was I was a kid. I had whatever I reacted to was just a child, and I think putting it in perspective that you maybe had no control of the situation, whatever it was, you don't have to create a bad memory with it.
No, you can actually be at one with yourself, huh?
Isn't that amazing? Thank you, John. Thought I'd share that.
Well,
Just
thanks.
thinking of you.
Mhm. If for those that haven't checked out that Memory Hackers video that was put out by Nova, the Science Channel, you can find it on YouTube and Nova, and probably even I think on Netflix. It emphasizes this point. It's pretty. It was. This is a relatively historically new way to think about memory. We used to think of it as just a library system. That's all. I got my memories, and you can just one day just sit on a beach and pull them out, and that was the only thing you can reminisce. Turns out it ain't that. It's not even like a library where you take a book out and put it back, and take a book out and put it back, and it's the same every time. What we now know is take it out, and every time you take it out, you recall that memory. It is susceptible to change. That's pretty interesting. That puts a whole new spin on memory. That means the mere act of recollection makes the memory susceptible to change, to rewrite, to your work toward being one.
Ken, you know why this idea blew my mind when I first realized it was true?
How come?
I had to ask myself, why does memory work that way?
Yeah.
That's why.
Yeah.
I was like, wait a minute. So every time I remember something, I can adjust it? What the hell is that about? Well, that sounds crazy because, like a lot of people, I thought memory was supposed to be static.
Right.
A history, right, of what I've experienced.
Right.
Turns out that's not right.
Yeah. I agree. We talk about looking at the world, that everything, the best you can ever do is interpret. That's it. These things here, they're called eyes, but they're not windows to the world. They receive signals. That's all we do, is we take in signals and we interpret them. That means that our perception is subjective. It is. Well, does it have an accurate balance with what's going on in the real world? Is it working for us? That's what the rewrite is about. That's what that term recapitulation is about. That's, the recapitulation is a rewrite. And as Paul's pointed out, memory ain't at all what we thought it was. Holy crap. It's like, instead of this thing in that, just these kind of things in the past that we can pull out and, kind of fondly just think over, it's the very lens through which we see the world. As you wake up in the morning and go about your day, and you go about your business and go about your relationships and go about your job and go about everything you do, you're using your memories to navigate the world. That's what we're talking to you about. That's where B1 comes in.
Oh wow, I just had like a light bulb moment. That's when we talked about it all being one event. Like that memory is still the program that you're seeing with, so that's still going on. Like that's what that meant.
Yep, exactly.
feel like there's a giant light bulb hanging out over my head right now. Like, shit, I didn't get that until now. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, that's cool. Watch the if you haven't seen it, watch the Memory Hackers. It's interesting. I think it starts around 1950, which is relatively recent, and goes to about 2015, 16 when they finished making the video. And in the span of that 70 years, pretty fascinating what we've learned about memory and its malleability, its flexibility, its plasticity, as some people talk about. But we've got this thing that we've got hanging out here too, called B1, in a sense of because we've got this upside down pyramid model, the as a soul expressing through a body, which is to say, as a soul expressing through memories, or you could say as souls we express through programs. That's just a different way to say it. But how that expression, if you want to talk about it as energetic, that seems to make a lot of sense to me, because everything comes down to, well, I was going to say everything comes down to energy, but for a working model, I think that's pretty good. So, all right. So you've got energy that's available for you to do shit. What could that shit be? Could that, be whatever it is that you're here to do?
Ken, could I caution here a little bit?
Yeah, please.
George thought that the self-meta program, he confused the self-meta programs with the supra self-meta programs. And I think a lot of people do.
Okay. That makes sense that they do, even though they are different things.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Because supra self-meta programs there are no such things the way that it's written here.
Meaning what? There are no such things the way it's written here.
The super self does not have a body.
Right.
So it has functions. It does not have programs.
Okay. And we've moved from the first part of the book into the functions, ways to conceptualize how, or a belief structure to conceptualize how supra self, which has no body, expresses those functions through.
Well, what does that look like in a biocomputer? In my laptop computer, what it looks like I have a whole series of apps. And you can tell a lot about how I think about work and computering and so forth by the apps that I have. Can you not?
Yeah, I could tell.
Okay.
Maybe you have a lot of word processing. Maybe you got news apps. Maybe
all kinds of things like that.
Yep.
That's okay. But that will tell you a lot about about how I deal with computing. Now, the thing is, though, is that we don't think about that in terms of our own biocomputer. We keep thinking that the soul is talking to us and that we're doing things for the reason that the soul told us. And we say stupid shit like that, do we not?
Yes, we do. We go on.
Why we say it is because we don't know any better.
Yeah, we don't.
Okay.
And yeah,
we don't think about it. We don't have a language to talk about it. I mean, who the hell are you going to talk to about it? Your priest? I don't think so. You're going to talk to about your local odd fellows? I don't think that's going to work. You go talk to a bunch of Wiccans. How about I don't think so. How about some Druids? How about some Native Americans? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. If you can go find some Yaqui shaman down in Mexico, you're in luck. If you can't do that, well, then you're shit out of luck. The problem isn't about any of that. The problem is really much simpler. If you simply understand that the biocomputer is part of and pertains to the body. Everything else pertains somewhere else, not to the body. There are some things that are supra-self that pertain to society, for instance. There are some things that pertain to self that belong to, well, most of them belong to society or in a relationship of some variety. However, there are some parts of you that are some parts of your thinking, there are some parts of your motivation to be and to do and so forth that have nothing at all to do with your programming. And that's a fact, Jack. Now, the trick with being at one is that first of all, you have to bring the computer under that one hat. And the vast majority of folks have several
Hats.
Oh man, sometimes they got a freaking closet full of hats, and they just I mean you can be they're quick change artists too. I'll tell you, they can go jump from one hat to the other in a heartbeat or less. I mean, right in front of your eyes, they can change hats, and you don't even notice. They're so quick about it.
Yeah.
But the thing is that the other or the soul or that standing wave around the computer or that 11 dimension thinking that we do, or whatever you want to call that, it's pretty stable. And so is the self-meta programmer if you understand what it's supposed to do, if you can find that one thing that it is, that navigator, as Lily refers to it.
That one thing it is.
That one thing that runs it, yes. And oftentimes with people that express multiple, I'm going to call it multiple personalities. That's not what it is. It's multiple leadership roles of some kind or the other. Oftentimes, that entity is the very last one that you can entice out to talk to.
It's really interesting. You know, you're describing a feature of human existence, yet you're talking about an entity that might be lying dormant in the background.
Well, it isn't so dormant, is the thing. But it will not admit its existence often. It requires somebody. Somebody who does that. I'm always reminded of the Birdcage. You know that scene with Robin Williams and what's his name, or the other guy or his partners.
Yeah.
You know, you have to be that sure of yourself.
Yeah. Robin Williams is sure of himself.
No, the partner.
Right.
Robin Williams said, anybody, you have to be somewhat sure of your male identity to be able to do that impression of John Wayne.
Yeah.
Because he did John Wayne as a gay fella, and he did it perfectly.
Yeah.
It was like an Academy Award performance, although he didn't get it. He should have, but he didn't. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
He nailed that whole parody. But the thing is that's exactly how we have to be in terms of being sure of ourselves. I don't care what you are. I don't care who you are. You need to express it even if you're putting on John Wayne.
Yeah.
That's being at one. That's letting the other shine through you. That's letting your programming work. That's a whole damn 9 yards. You know what? You're fine. Yeah, there's nothing really to adjust other than your fear of being fine.
Yeah. That's
that's the thing I like about Ralph. What you see is what you get. Mm-hmm. Ralph, I'm an Italian guy. Okay, good for you. Where do you live? I live in New Jersey, huh? Do you live in New Jersey there, huh? I didn't know, Ralph. That's good for you. You live over there in New Jersey. Huh? Hey, listen, guy, can you fix me something to eat? I'm starving here, huh? Hey, mancha. You can hear his mom over there in the background telling him, fix something good to eat over here, huh? Here, eat something good. This is healthy for you. Here. You can hear all that shit, and that's what you're going to get the guy. He's going to come by your house. He's going to drop off some substance. You can't touch this. I'm the man here. You can't touch this. What you see is what you get. That's somebody who's damn well sure of himself. Can he adjust it some more? Probably. He's still young.
Mhm.
He's gonna be a killer when he gets older. You know, he already is. He's already thinking about shit. He's already thinking about how people get along, how he gets along with his wife, what's important in a relationship. Tune that up a little bit, and he's dangerous, right?
Yeah.
But you compare Ralph with like Chris. It's like there, Chris is saying, yeah, well, my mom and dad might not like me anymore if I wipe my own ass. I don't ask them, is it back and forth or over or up and down, mom and dad? Which way is it? I can never remember. I mean, the guy's in trouble there.
Yeah.
Not because he's a bad guy, not because he's dumb, but because he can't see that that's how he sees the world.
Yeah.
Ralph can't see it either, but of the two of them, I'll take Ralph because Ralph is at one with himself. Chris is at one with various selves.
Right.
Depending on which self it is that's in charge at the moment. Mom
Yep.
and dad self, Chris self, the girlfriend self, the I'm a out and about self, etc. I'm going to impress my Chinese girlfriend self, maybe even.
Yeah. Well, that's why the tool of programming is the tool that frees up the energy of the B1 function. Maybe loud.
First, I gotta clear up the air.
Yeah.
I do make good food, but barbecue might be my specialty. Okay, ribs is my signature dish.
Yeah. Now, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well,
I'm buying you from Texas too, motherfucker. Yeah, we're sure you are. Okay.
that's
But
great.
I want to point out something I noticed, like on the B1 harmony, the I do, that little triangle that I thought. So, like, if I could take an example, like George, day one, George, his triangle was out of whack. But like when I heard him the other night, I felt like his triangle started getting more in line to where now that guy can communicate with people. If the way he was talking the other night on the phone for that little minute, that's a guy I could communicate with. But the way he was for the weeks following, before that, you know what I mean? Like, look how back and forth we're going on conversations with that guy.
Yeah, it's true.
I wonder if George could explain to Ralph what caused that change.
Let's see here. George, are you on? Yeah, he is. All right. I'm going to allow him to talk. Can you, George?
Yeah, I can explain it.
Great. We're lucky. Go for it.
I mean, I think it has to do mostly, like we've been talking about B1, I think it has mostly to do with knowing who I am and staying, like knowing who I am and staying in that place and staying in that place and being honest with myself about, this is who I am and this is where I have to stand. I'm a human being first. Relationships are important to me. You can't be an asshole to people. You can't, treat people with you must treat people with kindness, and respect, and talk to people as human beings if you want relationships. And you have to stay in that place for me and not, waver. Not use those old programs. You have to not do the old programs. So
George, when you look at yourself, do you like what you see?
yeah.
I mean, like, I feel like that's the key to it, no, George?
That's a fucking mirror. What do you think, huh?
And I know this goes back down to that honesty thing, and I see where you really got to be honest. Because I'll tell you, there comes a point in everybody's life, you got to look in that mirror, and whatever's fucking staring back at you, but that's what you got to be in love with. And George, you just got to learn how to love whatever the fuck is staring back at you. That's what you got, man. And you have a lot more than a lot of other people do. You got your arms, you got limbs, you got so many things to be grateful for. If you
Yeah,
fall in love with that, I think everything else follows.
yeah, I agree 110%. That's I mean that's where you're hitting is what I've been struggling with the past few days. Like I am who I am, and uh, you there's no use in beating yourself up for you know because I realized I was being an asshole to people, but if I'm not doing if I'm being a kind person now, I'm being honest with myself um, about who I am and communicating, then yeah, I think I'm an okay guy, and I don't think there's any use in beating myself up for who I was in the past, especially if I'm not in that place anymore.
Yeah.
You know who says I am who I am? That's like who Popeye. You know what I mean? The cartoon character. I am who I am.
Yeah.
That's I mean, I feel, George, and again, I'm no pro, but I feel like you gotta love what you're looking at. You know what I mean? And when you think about it, when you're doing stuff, it's gotta be 100%, no matter what it is. If you're scrubbing toilets, it's 100%. If you're gonna, invent the cure for cancer, 100%.
Exactly, and that's where I've been seeing where um, the programming has to stay resolved, because if I don't say if, like right now I'm cleaning floors as I was listening to this, but if I'm often thinking about old programs, kind of like how Lenore was talking about it, then I'm not paying attention to the floors. I'm not paying attention to the calls. I'm not being like, oh man, this is hard work. Why is this? Why am I doing cleaning floors? But if I'm honest with myself and saying, I really ought to give back to people, and this is a one way I can give back to people, then it's I think I'm more at one with myself and can focus on the floors and the calls and everything else that is important and has to be paid attention to.
I worked for a guy at a company called Net2Phone. His name was Steve Greenberg, and he was a player in both the legal field, and he ended up becoming president of the company. He had lots of skills and talents, and you could easily see a guy like that thinking everything of himself. But he had a not doing about him that I guess I could best describe as humility. He'd be the first to walk in a room filled with people, even and just right off the bat admit that he doesn't know. That's why you guys are here. He'd say, "You're the experts. I don't know this stuff." Um, I think that has a lot to do with what Ralph's talking about. About looking in the mirror. I mean, in one sense, it might seem to be contrary to that. Who would walk into a room and say that they don't know? But you got to be comfortable. You're comfortable with yourself, and you're comfortable with what you know and what you don't know. That's a pretty endearing quality. What you say, George?
Yeah, I think that's. I mean,
Yeah.
otherwise, you're just lying to yourself and you're bullshitting people if you're talking about stuff that you are saying that that you don't know, or
Yeah.
stuff that I know how to cook. I don't know, like an omelet, and then you make it, and it's like, oh wait, this putting stuff between two eggs is not an omelet. You gotta know what you know and know what you don't know, so that you can do things that you actually have experience in.
Yeah. I worked for this other attorney. His name was Bobby. He worked at a big firm. Last name intentionally omitted. I've been to meetings with the guy. He would just make up shit. Like anytime anybody asked him something, and he just felt like he had to have an answer to no. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you could say he liked himself in the mirror, but maybe you could also say that probably beyond that, really what was going on was something other than liking yourself. Because when it got into situations in these meetings, and some, meetings where millions and tens of millions, $100 millions were on stake, he'd just be given an answer just because he felt like he needed to give an answer. And I saw that on countless times come back and bite him in the ass, because people don't miss that shit. They don't. I mean, if maybe you'll fool them if you even can temporarily, or if you can even do that. But people know the deal, and
People know when you're bullshitting them.
yeah, yeah. And so when you're humble about what you know and what you don't know, the heck's more trustworthy than that. Okay. Cool. Well, thanks.
I think I'm getting a little bit what John's been poking at with me here, because like when I'm talking about stuff, it's like I'm like feeling bad for myself that I didn't know things, and I had to work through stuff, and it's like, so
No,
everybody's got to work through shit.
totally. Yeah, I don't know shit. You don't know shit, Lenore.
Yeah.
You're still talented and smart and all that stuff.
Yeah, and just because like I had to work through something to get to a point doesn't mean anything about whether I'm smart or I'm talented or anything like that. It just means I'm human.
Yep.
Well, it does mean something. That you work through it means that you're worth a shit.
That's the damn truth. Yep.
Yeah, because there's a lot of people out there that never do that at all.
Yep.
Yep. That's the place, kid, where you and I are on the same page, and I love you to death because you work through it. Are you an asshole about it? Oh God, God knows that you're an asshole about it. That's your most endearing quality. Trust me.
Yeah.
But you will work through it eventually. I mean, just because you're too fucking ornery not to.
Yeah.
So to you too.
Yeah, so we got a slide of every time you remember something, the memory is unstable and susceptible to rewiring. Well, that's what you're doing when you're working through shit. You're literally rewiring neural pathways.
That's a picture of new synapses being grown.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you pull up a memory and you look at it. You grow new synapses. You make your brain denser. That's one of the things. That's one of the advantages of floating, is that when you float and you're thinking about things, you've never had that experience before of floating, and so you think about anything at all in your life, you're going to think about it with a different flavor, which means you're going to grow lots and lots and lots of new synapses. You're going to put the denser brain, i.e., you're going to act smarter.
Yeah.
Well, in theory, if you remember the thing differently, if you go back and say, "Oh yes, it's always the same," you're not going to remember it differently, and you can fuck yourself yet again. That works too. It works. However you want to do it.
Yeah. I think all the same, you're still creating new synapses, but maybe you're reinforcing the highway the 5-lane highway to a 6-lane highway.
Yeah, that's the one right there. Paint the memory with a different color, you're fine. Just paint it with it. Especially if you can do it, you can paint it with a different color when you're floating. Oh wow, now then you got a different. You're changing the memory, and you've got a new event to hang the memory on, and that's wonderful. Now that's really effective new programming. That's kind of like getting an update from Apple or from Google or somebody.
Yeah. A few days ago, somebody asked, or maybe it was last week, what to do in the tank, and I think you responded, "Dream it differently" or something like that, which I think is what we're talking about now.
Yeah, that's it.
Well, cool.
Well, I better let you wrap this up here and quit opening up more rabbit holes for people to jump.
I don't know that that's happened. I think we're closing up some questions or resolving them for people. Who else? You guys good with B1? Bree, Ralph, Pam? How you doing, Bree? I didn't hear from you tonight.
Hey, I'm here.
Oh,
I'm doing pretty good. Just
well, we did hear from you, but we'll
yeah.
leave you in.
Yeah.
Good.
Mhm.
You got this B1 thing straight?
So I mean, it was helpful to hear when you said that the programming memory are actually the same thing. I think I just said it like yesterday. I think I just said it slightly differently because a lot of the memories that I see were like I was dreaming those, like they're dreams anyway to me. Like I just like put them in like a box somewhere and then put them on a shelf and it was like, well, this I don't have to deal with, basically.
Yeah, yeah, and
Until recently.
yeah, that's the way you look at the world and your job,
Yeah.
your significant other, and your boss, and everything else through that
Yeah.
memory.
So it's like, and then like when I actually stopped, I was like, oh shit, no, those that was what I was actually built. All those dreams, that's what I was building. Well, belief and real off of. I was like, oh shit.
Okay. What did you talk about last night? You had mentioned something that you had recognized, a pattern of going about things, kind of a loopy kind of, I do this and I get that feedback. And
Can you add more words to that, maybe?
yeah, I think you said something last night about how you recognize that you create a pattern for yourself. Maybe you, I don't know if you said you get angry and then it comes back and it's just a loop of.
Oh, let me see if I can remember what I was talking about. Shoot. So yeah, so like I'm pretty sure probably what I probably was talking about was that like there was this frustration that would come up and it was like attached to like wanting people to do what I think they needed to do. So it was that super selfish kind of like trying to force people uh to see it my way kind of thing. I think it's like top level. That's like I think probably what I said to the effects of, at least.
Yeah. Is that like, for me, patterns like that, well, for everybody, they play out in everything. You could usually
Yes.
see, the trails and
Yeah.
in relationships and how
Yeah.
people aren't bowing to my demand of how things need to be done.
Yeah, I mean, they mainly came up with men. Like that was the big one. Like that was like I could see it the easiest with men, just because it had to do with like my dad's death and that kind of like that being pissed off with him and thinking I could control him from dying and all this crazy shit. And so I'd be like, no, it was his time to go, and that's what it was.
Yeah.
And uh it's like it's like I like had to like, it's like I got so far with all the classes and stuff and then was like, but there's all these other facets that were attached to it, which is like now going back and looking at each single piece of those that I've been having to do, because there's like all these things attached to it. It's not just like, because you start with that individual memory, right, and you rewrite that and then gotta keep following that thread until it unravels the rest of it.
You know, the facets come up. Like for
Mhm.
me, you know, what Maria does, I used to take tremendous offense to it. It was like, you have to do it this way.
Yeah.
And even this part, like, like everything, that thought permeated how I felt about her and me and the relationship and all the frustration that went into that. Um, she and I did a dyad class, and like one of the things that we started off with a dyad class was this quote from Rumi, and I think I remember that you like Rumi.
Hmm.
And the quote's something like, I'm gonna get it wrong, like a relationship is when two independent, you know, people that, you know, it's just not the quote, but, you know, I mean, you know, that, you know, are one with themselves, you know, come
Hmm.
together. You know, it's not that glommy kind of
Yeah.
corporate thing. And like when
Ye-
I go ahead.
Mhm. Oh no, I was just going to say, yeah, it's not that like, oh, that other half and I have to find that other half to create a whole kind of nonsense.
Yeah, she's
Hmm.
okay. Yeah, who the hell am I to say she's not
Yeah.
okay, or anybody else? And with that, you know, that opened like appreciation, not just for her, but for lots of other people. Because man, I used to like do that too, and go around and like things had to
Yep.
be a certain way, and I don't want to do that
Yeah.
again.
Yeah, it's crazy because I mean, it was like I said, it was easiest for me to see it with men because I didn't have any real like relationships with men outside of like, you know, sex or you know, a work, like just like a coworker kind of relationship. It was very like top level. It's like I refused to go any further just because I was holding on to how pissed I was at my dad basically for dying. And it was like,
Yeah.
how ridiculous is that thought? Because it's just like, no, what are we doing? You can't move. I couldn't move anywhere. It was like, so I wasn't even, it was like I wasn't even seeing who my boyfriend was because of that thought alone. You know, he was trying to tell me things, trying to tell me he cared about me and wanted to be a part of this relationship with me. And it was just like, I blew the fuck past it.
That
Whoa, whoa,
describes
whoa,
to
whoa,
a
whoa,
T.
whoa,
Yeah.
whoa, 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 whoa. Which boyfriend are we talking about here?
My current one.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
I was worried for a minute, kid. I'm sorry.
No, 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 nope, no, no, none of those.
Yeah.
Yeah, nope, not that. No, not, nope.
But yeah, it's interesting, like, right, like getting that, like for me, was even changed the way people looked. They didn't really
Mhm.
look different, but
No,
they, in some sense, they did, like, because change
right,
the way you think about things, and the things in the world look different.
right, because that you start to see, like, I started to see this width and depth to it, like to these people. I was like, holy fucking shit, how like, wow. So that's the rabbit I'm chasing right now.
Okay. Okay. Those not doings have been helpful to me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. It's like the talking to George before, right? Like not doing of arrogance, humility,
Yeah.
you know.
Yep. Taking expecting, maybe I don't know what the fuck's going on here, and I should probably find the fuck out, huh?
Yeah, that's okay, because that'll get you from where you are to some other place all the
Yep,
time.
every time.
Yeah,
Cool.
cool. Thanks.
Of course.
Anybody else?
I had a dream the other night, and I think it really sums like a lot of what's been going on for me up really well. Um, I dreamed I was somewhere, I don't know where, but I was with Bree, and in front of us were just these pallets of water like you'd see at like Sam's Club or something. and we had to move them. And I start like looking around. I'm like, who's going to help us with this? And Bree looks at me and she's like, no, we're going to carry this. And then the two of us picked up the water and we carried it. And I think that it was just like this, like, oh, wow. Like, I think for me, like what I was doing every time I was trying to tell other people what to do, especially like in my relationships, I was always like demanding other people do what I want. I was refusing to carry my own water. And then I had this dream that's like literally that. And it just like summed it up perfectly. Like, well, you know, I'm big enough, I can carry my own water. I don't need someone else to come in and help me or come in and save me. Like, I can do it myself.
Yeah, for sure. You can. And you do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting about dreams, right? I think the B1 concept is, as we said in the beginning, is, you know, lots of things, you know, including being one with dreaming.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wow, really? Is that a thing? Yeah. Is. Well, cool. Thanks. What do you guys say? Anybody got anything else to add here before we wrap up? Tomorrow we're going to move into harmony function. Sound good?
Yep.
Cool.
Sounds good. Thanks, Ken. Good night.
Night, Ralph. All righty then. So we'll catch you all tomorrow then, 8 p.m.
Cool.
Okay, good night.
Sounds awesome. Good night.
Night,
Night,
guys.
everyone.
Night.
Oh, my cat says good night too, if you can hear her there.